Please subscribe.
General Motors possesses the enormous SUV space with Chevrolet Tahoe, Suburban, which are by a wide margin the piece of the pie chiefs, and in the event that you include their image kin, the organization can guarantee path over portion, everything being equal. However, the noteworthy new Ford Expedition, with its long wheelbase max variation and Lincoln Navigator kin, has begun disintegrating that market predominance in the course of the most recent year. Their free-back suspensions have managed the progressively agreeable ride in roomier third line and freight region for quite a while. Their component substance and fit finish took an ongoing quantum jump forward in the most recent update, and the twin-turbo V6 EcoBoost / 10-speed programmed powertrains inspiring the FoMoCo section speak to hardened challenge for the GM brands. Chevrolet is preparing its reaction, which finally includes a free-back suspension, modified gas V8 motors, and a section selective inline-six diesel, all mated to a 10-speed programmed, that offers its basic structure with Ford's 10-speed, in addition to a beating new electrical engineering that should future evidence the Tahoe, Suburban, and its kin for every single predictable innovation prone to show up during its lifetime. I've quite recently had a brisk test ride in a Model T1 age Tahoe kitted out with its first-rate fuller suspension, and I can disclose to you it's ready to shield its high, deals, ground. Here's the reason: extraordinary, better, independent rear suspension design. Portage utilizes a 5-connect back suspension, included 2 trailing connections and 3 horizontal connections for each side. Chevy has gone with the 4-interface configuration, utilizing 1 long trailing connection and 1 similarly long, roughly 29 crawls by my measuring tape, lower horizontal connection that conveys the spring, damper mount, in addition to 2 upper side long connections. That 2 powerful long trailing connection is said to manage the cost of better ride confinement, on account of a colossal and squishy bushing where it mounts to the body. It likewise bundles helpfully off the beaten path, detachable of the edge rails. The side long connections, paradoxically, all utilize harder bushings to oppose cornering loads and give more hone-taking care of reaction. Air springs plus magnetic shocks plus IRS equals better ride. 3 suspensions will be offered on the Tahoe and Suburban: a base variable rate steel spring loop over stun arrangement utilizing inactive pressure-driven stuns, a mid-level one matching similar springs with magneto-archaeological dampers, and a top offering with air springs and the Mr. dampers. These are 4th-age Mr. dampers that element lower inward erosion and a change away from position detecting to accelerometer sensors at each corner. This, in addition to the boundlessly faster preparing pace empowered by the hearty new electrical engineering, extraordinarily increment the presentation of these stuns. In the meantime, the air springs give load leveling, can raise 2 creeps for rough terrain ground leeway, lower 2 crawls for traveler, freight stacking, or duck down 0.8 inch for improved optimal design. They enabled the architects to spec a lower essential spring rate for improved ride quality, realizing that just by expanding the pneumatic stress, to level the heap, the spring rates increment to deal with that heap. Improved powertrains, while the uprooting, power, and torque specs haven't changed for the 5.3 and 6.2-liter V8 motors. They're altogether modified to incorporate the dynamic fuel management chamber deactivation, which can specifically kill somewhere in the range of 1 and 7 chambers during a specific transformation as directed by control request. Our ride was in a first-rate Tahoe with a 6.2, and I can affirm this brawny V8 makes a significantly more happy commotion than this fairly throaty bark of the EcoBoost 6 when every one of the 8 are pulling. GM's tune of this co-created 10-speed programmed appears to be just as insightful as Ford's in any event from the front seat. How it rides. Chevy moved us around the recognizable ride street that is often utilized for assessment drives at its Milford Proving Ground. We began riding in a fresh out-of-the-plastic new Ford Expedition Limited, and afterward ran a similar circle of blended street surfaces, rail intersections, washboard, development joints, and such in a top-trimmed Tahoe with the air, Mr. arrangement. We ran the course twice in the Tahoe, once in the Solace one-sided default typical mode at a similar speed we'd encountered in the Expedition, and again at higher speeds in sport mode. On the development joints it was hard to tell a lot of contrast between the two. Went intersection knocks and plunges influencing just the left half of the vehicle, the Expedition hurled my head pretty fiercely while the Tahoe initiated only the merest trace of a bobble in either mode. Gab knocks in a corner sent the back of the Expedition skittering detachable somewhat while the Tahoe followed through determined in the two modes. What's more, on the challenge to do's the Expedition regularly encountered a second or third here and there movement after the headliner, while the Tahoe settled directly down. I detected amazingly little ride corruption in sport mode. We'll be anxious to test the more standard suspensions closer to the Tahoe/Suburban's mid-2020 markdown date. However, the Mr. Stuns ought to have the option to convey a large number of the above qualities all alone. How it sits while the Suburban just develops 1.3 inches, winding up 3.8 inches longer than the Expedition Max. The Tahoe is 6.8 inches longer, 0.7 inch longer than Expedition. Thus, alongside the more smaller IRS that brings down the back burden floor by up to 5.3 inches, the Tahoe conveys darn close to a similar third-push seating solace as the Suburban, surely enough for this 5'10" grown-up to ride in complete solace, which was not the situation in the old knees-up Tahoe way back. Potential downsides official checkloads still can't seem to be uncovered, yet we're advised to anticipate that the new trucks should pick up somewhere in the range of 50 and 200 pounds. We'll be anxious to check whether air enhancements, skip-fire motors, and the 10-speed can paw back the mileage punishment that extra weight would somehow or another reason. In like manner, towing limits presently can't seem to be uncovered, and will be intrigued to perceive how those air springs influence max towing. Lastly, the IRS implies there will be not any more 2500 or 3500 HD variations. No incredible misfortune, as those have just been accessible to business and government purchasers for quite a while, yet those people will be stuck between a rock and a hard place in 2021.